Okay, we're live. You can't see it as clear. Hi everyone, we're doing a lash fill. Just getting our tray set up. Honestly, I used to feel like I didn't really care for Cardi B, but I like her. Like I've been liking her lately. I can't listen to too much of her music, but like her features for sure I like. Let's check on this tape. This tape slid down a little bit, so we'll put another piece. So how long has it been since you got your last lashes done?
2.5 weeks.
2.5? Okay. You did pretty good with your retention, as usual. Usually you go, what, like a month, right?
Yes.
Yes. So, first thing we're gonna do is go through and remove any of the lashes that could be lifting or growing out. And I tend to do, sometimes I will do all of the removals first, and then I'll go back in and put in the lashes that need to be filled. And sometimes I'll do it as I go. So right now this tweezer, I've had it forever. That's one of my OGs. So it's not gripping the natural lash so well to make it easy to like grip onto the natural lash to remove the extension that's on its way out. So we're gonna try my backup pair. And it's really easy to remove outgrown lashes without causing any harm or pain to the client. So right now, I just held onto the natural lash. These lashes were lifting already, and I just removed them. So this one's lifting. I'm gonna hold on to the natural lash and remove. The one that I just removed, I was able to just pinch it and it came right off. So we'll go through. On this client, we used, I believe, 9 through 12. Sorry. Sometimes we go down to 8. Sometimes we end at 11. Just let me know if you have to like switch positions or anything. So right now I'm just going through and removing anything that's outgrown. We already have our lash tray set up. and you go through and check every lash that's on there and just see if it's lifting. If it's lifting at the base, you definitely want to remove them so that you can fill it in with a fresh one that's secure. Now this client, as you can see, she has a pretty clean lash line. Still, as they grow out, it's normal to see a little bit of debris right at the root, and you can just clear that off with the tweezers. Usually that means that like it wrapped around the hair, and you won't be able to get that with like a brush. So with the tweezers, you can just go through and remove any debris. If you're just hopping on, go ahead and type where you're from. Hi, Sweet V. So right now we pretty much removed any of the extensions that are ready to go. And sometimes once we do that initial removal and we go back in with the lashes, we can find some more that could be replaced, and you can do that easily as you go. So right now I'm just gonna prepare my glue ring. We have our lashes, we use ProMade lashes. So we have our lashes here, and we're gonna get our glue ready to go. I got here at like 8 a.m. this morning. I didn't have time for a bite or a drink of coffee, so I just had my coffee and I'm ready to go. And I'm actually gonna take another sip. The one thing, I don't play about my Starbies, and they forgot to put in the cold foam. I wanted to say something, but I also didn't, so then I didn't say anything. But it still came out pretty good. I don't think I'm gonna wear my mask. Normally when I'm lashing now, I do wear a mask. I've been doing that for at least 6 months. Once you're working with lash glue for a while, you realize like the fumes kind of go in and can start bothering you a little bit, and I find that a mask helps me. So here what I'm doing is I'm putting the tape on the eyelid and lifting up the corner a little bit. This gets the natural lashes off of the tape on the bottom so that I can apply the lashes freely without them sticking to the bottom tape. And here we're gonna start with 8 millimeters on the inners. And I'm hoping that you guys are getting a good view of that. Yeah, pretty much. So I normally tend to work one eye at a time, and I like to work in a straight line, so from one side to the other. It helps me stay organized. There's pros and cons to both. So initially when I had my first training, they emphasized to work one eye and then the other eye, and try to keep the work that you're doing on each eye even, so that, God forbid, if there's ever an emergency and the client has to leave, they don't just have one eye full and one eye empty. And that absolutely makes sense. However, I was never able to get really organized that way. I do sometimes work on both, and sometimes it works great for me and other times it does not, and I just feel so disorganized. So I just kind of stick with what I know and what's comfortable for me. I'm also left-handed, so isolation for me is better on the left side, especially because I use the left hand to isolate. So I feel like I can get a grip a little bit better working on this side. And lash extensions can be applied to many types of natural lashes, curly lashes, straight lashes, you name it. And I've noticed there's different types of curly lashes. Some naturally curly lashes will curl within themselves and give you like a C look. Other types of curly lashes, if you were to isolate them, they look straight. However, they curl into each other and they kind of interlock. And I found that those are the hardest lashes to work with. However, a lot of my clients in the beginning had those type of lashes, so I learned that the more you practice with them, the better you get. But they definitely used to be panic inducing for me. Did I tell you we have a new artist here?
Yes.
Okay. She's gonna be able to do
Facials?
Yeah, she's gonna do facials. I already have a couple people that I have to text her that they want to book with her, but I want to see what she has. That was you probably. I don't see anything good. What she has. That was you probably. I don't see anything for you. If you're here and you're enjoying the live, make sure to tap the screen and just keep tapping as you're watching. This helps us get the live out to more viewers. And just join the party. Oh my god, I saw a TikTok the other day, yesterday, of Karol G driving through Miami, and she had a hot pink Lambo. It looks so good. And it was just random people like driving, and they saw her driving next to them, and they were like, "Cara." I would flip out. I would probably cry. I love her. Yes. And she like waved at them, but she was singing. I was like, "Oh, keep singing, girl." That is my phone, I think. Or no. Oh yeah, your phone's behind you. Okay. It's just the, you know, those fake numbers, 5-digit number. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't my phone. My friend's watching the live. Excited. So June. Okay, so you still, after your thing, you still have like a month to prepare. Did you get anything yet, like for yourself, well, for the baby, for when he comes?
I have so what my sister did was just that
I'm so excited. Well, after you have him, if you don't want to go nowhere, I will gladly concede. So let me know. Hey, and if you need help, I'm off Sunday, Mondays. And then other days, you know, it depends. There's some random days that I'm not really working. I'll be around. So I started with 8mm, and now we're working into 9mm length. This is decurl, and these are pro-made. So the difference between pre-made and pro-made lashes, usually pre-made lashes are made by machine. And what I found with those are the ones that I was first told about. And they just have really wide, chunky bases. They are very unnatural to me, and they're hard to work with. The only time they work well is if the person has like long and thick lashes, and that's not always the case. Everybody's lashes are different. So upon my research, I found pro-made lashes, and I found out that those were literally the best, the most natural, and if you notice, the bases are snatched. And I really like that. The only con to me, having a snatched base and using pro-mades as compared to pre-made is the lash line. So if you want to achieve a really dark lash line, you're either gonna have to go up in dimension. So these that I'm using right now are 7D. They're pretty average. This is what I use for my volume sets. But if I have a client who wants a really dark lash line and I'm using these lashes, I will go up in dimension minimum. So this is 7D. I would start minimum 10D plus, even like technically a mega volume, because then you'll get the darkness not directly at the base, but above the base where everything is pinched in. That's where you'll get that darkness, and that's why you need to go up in diameter. So it'll be a little bit darker. If you use pre-made lashes, which are made by a machine, and they have that thick square looking base, some artists really like that because you can even use like a 6D and have a pretty dark lash line. So there's pros and cons. My hand is shaking because I'm because of the coffee that I drank, because it's espresso. So it's shaking very little. Like I can't even see it, but I can feel it. But I want to keep drinking my coffee. Maybe I'll drink some water. But you know what? I don't have any ice in my water. I'm thirsty. When you're working all day and you're literally using both hands the entire day, you barely get a chance to do anything, such as like drink anything, eat anything, use your phone. Although like when you have clients, usually you don't want to be using your phone. But if you're back to back all day, you have to resort to like a liquid diet basically, or no diet. So I like to keep protein shakes here for the times that literally my stomach is growling and the customer can hear it. If I have a protein shake, I can just throw a straw in there and sip it in between my work, and it'll calm my stomach down and hold me over until I'm able to like eat something. So it's very important. Like I've had to learn this sometimes the hard way since the beginning, that you really have to take care of yourself as you're taking care of your client. Like use a lot of self-awareness to understand like what works for your body and even your mind while you're working. So one of the first tough lessons that I learned is how negative self-talk affects you so much. And that was the first thing I did when I first started lashing, since it was so hard for me because I've never done anything this tedious with my hands before then. I used to have a running dialogue in my head the entire time. Used to take me like 4 hours, even longer in the very beginning, but let's say my average time was about 4 hours in the beginning. And I used to negatively talk about myself or my work the entire time. I used to say like, this is so hard, why am I doing this? Like, I suck at this, like, this is so hard. Like the entire time my mind was saying that. Like I would be sweating. Sometimes my eyes would be sweating. I would cry because, and the client wouldn't even know, because clearly like they have their eyes closed, and I would just hide my sniffles and just like let the tears fall because it was just so hard. But I had a higher purpose to doing the lashes. I wanted to work in a different job, and I did not want to go back to any other job that I had before. And I had to pave a new way for myself. So yeah, that was one of the tough lessons I had to learn while lashing, was I cannot talk to myself negatively. I cannot speak negatively on my own work, especially while I'm doing it. And I can't talk about like how hard it is while I'm doing it, because it will continue being hard, because my brain is already looking for the ways that it's hard. So I had to change that around, and actually it was my second lash trainer that helped me turn the mindset around. I went to her for another training because my first training was in classic lashes only. So I went to her for a volume training, and I was extremely afraid to even touch my clients, so my arms would be floating above them, and that caused like caused a lot of strain on my body too. And she would tell me like, why are you afraid to touch the client? And I'm like, I just don't want them to be uncomfortable at all. Like, I don't want them to even feel me. And she was like, girl, you're doing their lashes, they're gonna feel you. Like, and I'm like, I don't want to drop the tweezers on them, I don't want to poke them. And she was like, girl, I've been doing this for years, I still drop my tweezers, I still poke people, it happens, and it's okay. She was like, my clients still come to me as long as, you're not doing it all the time. She's like, trust yourself. Like, you know what you're doing. And before that moment, I really did not believe that I knew what I was doing. I was like, no, I don't know what I'm doing. And she was like, don't say that. You know everything that you've had to learn. So, you know, you're just going to get better at it if you keep going. She was like, you got this. You know what you're doing. So then that's what I started to say in my head when I was lashing. Every time my brain was like, this sucks. I can't do this. I suck. I used to get those thoughts, slap them away, and say, I know what I'm doing. I'm the pro. I can do this. And there was some, now I can just be silent in my head because I'm confident in my work. But there was times where I had to say it the entire time as an affirmation, pretty much. Like, for the whole, like, 2 to 3 hours, I can do this. This is easy for me. I'm getting better. And I just had to say that over and over and over and over for hours. You would have thought that I was cuckoo if you heard what was going on in my head. And that's how I was able to change my mindset. And that's how I was able to improve myself. And actually look for reasons why this is easy for me. How I'm getting better. Because it was really hard to have, like, steady hands and to learn how to isolate in the beginning. And there's no shortcut to it. The only way to get better is to keep on going. Fight through those thoughts, and once you fight through those thoughts, you actually have to, or in order to fight through the thoughts, you have to slap them away, the negative ones. So that was one of the tough lessons I had to learn in the beginning. Another tough lesson, so that was taking care of my mind. And it took a while. It didn't change overnight. And sometimes I would revert back to negative talk. And even now, every once in a while, when I get, like, a little bit of a difficult set to do, I'll say that in my head, like, you know, these are hard lashes, like, you know. And I'm trying to remember specifically what instance I had recently where I was saying that. I caught myself saying that in my head, like, oh my God, these are hard. And when I realized that was going on in my head, I was like, oop, time to change the channel. And that is absolutely necessary. It doesn't matter what you're doing, because the only way that you're going to be able to, like, change your patterns, change your life, improve yourself, is by doing something that you're not comfortable doing and pushing through it. And one day you will be comfortable, and then you'll be remembering the days that it was hard to push. Now we're moving into 10 millimeters length. So as you can see, like, the 8s were, like, really small, then we had, like, a medium, and now we have, like, a little bit of a larger fan here, but still we have the snatch bases. Another thing I love about having, like, really tight snatch bases is for clients that have a lot of natural lashes, it's hard to fit in extensions sometimes. And what I've noticed is some artists tend to skip lashes because they're like, well, it's a wide base, it's going to cover this space on the eyelid, so I'm going to skip lashes. And to be honest, I don't like when that happens. I don't like when it happens for me, or having to do that to a client. Sometimes I do have to do it for a client when they ask for a volume, but they want it to be, like, as light as possible. But as you know, if you skip lashes, once the client starts having fallout, like in a week, and they see how many natural lashes not only are empty because of the natural shed, but also the ones that were skipped in between, it just looks like so much more fallout. So I was always taught to fill in every lash, and sometimes you have to improvise and find ways that you can fill every lash by using, let's say, a smaller fan, or throwing in a classic here or there. Some people's natural lashes are gonna look more sparse in one area, but on the same eye in another area, it's very crowded. And those are the places you don't want it to look too crazy. So that's where, for instance, I would throw in a classic here and there, so that all the lashes are still covered with an extension. However, it doesn't look like all the extensions are piling on top of each other. So another lesson that I had to learn when I started lash extensions, besides listening to my mind, was listening to my body. So in order to focus, we can start with the hands. In order to focus on what I was doing, since I've never been so tedious before lashes, I would hold a lot of tension in my fingers. And to this day, I still do sometimes. Like this morning, literally, I had to remind myself to loosen up my grip a little bit. But especially before, when I used to take like 4 hours for lashes, I would hold so much tension so that I can keep the tweezers still. And by the ends, like all of my fingers would hurt or feel like swollen inside. I would get a lot of inflammation from carrying a lot of tension between my knuckles and my hands and in my wrists. So I used to like bend my wrists really hard. And so that was my lesson number 2. My top lesson number 2 of a lash appointment was listening to my body. So as soon as I would feel the pain, and I would just push through it so that I could finish the lashes, and I wouldn't change anything about my position or my grip, because I was like, I must be tense and I must power through. So I had to learn that, like, after I was experiencing a lot of pain in my wrists. And then the other part of pain that I would feel would be in my neck. I used to like bend my neck downward and also keep a lot of tension around there, which would cause a lot of pain afterwards. I would ignore it during the service, and then afterwards I would really feel it, to the point that, like, I'm a crier, but I would cry over that pain too. So I had to learn to adjust myself properly. So for my hands and my wrists, you just have to loosen up your grip, relieve some tension, and sometimes without even noticing, you will have some tension, like today. And then as soon as your body tells you, like, ooh, that doesn't feel good, immediately like switch it up. Sometimes I've had to pause and stretch my fingers, rub my hands a little bit, and then I can continue. But I never put finishing a set above a pain that I'm feeling. Like, I will find a way to relieve the pain and adjust myself so that I can continue and not make it worse. Now, when you're using pomades, there's many ways that you can apply the lashes. The way that I found that was the most effective for me was applying the lashes from underneath. That way, if you put the lash, I don't know if you can see this, if you put the lash underneath the natural lash and the client brushes their lashes, the edge of the fan is protected and is not going to be lifted. If you put the lash on top of the natural lash and the client brushes from the top, I've seen that it's more likely that the lash will kind of like peel up from the bottom because the client brushes. So I find it best applying underneath the natural lash, and that way it's safer for the extension and it'll stay longer. Another way is applying the fan next to the lash, and I actually really like that technique when I have curly lashes, because applying the lash underneath or on top when they're very curly, when they're turning to the side, is hard. And then sometimes you just find the straightest edge of that curly lash and just apply the pomade to the side. And this will work for handmaids as well. When you're lashing, you're also going to notice that clients have multiple layers of natural lashes. I would say most clients have at least 2 layers, and some have 3. And then in some parts of the eyelid, you're only going to have 1 layer. Some parts of the eyelid you'll have more. And what I mean by layers is, for the thickness of the edge of the eyelid, there is lashes on the top part and there's lashes underneath. So you'll have multiple layers of lashes. There's ways that you can utilize the different layers of lashes to create different styles. So normally, another hack that I use, if somebody wants a really dark lash line, but they want long lashes, and since these bases are pretty tight and snatched at the ends, the skinny part of the extension is going to go further if you go long. So what I'll do is, on the top layer, the layer closest to me from this angle, I will put the long lashes that the client requests. But on the bottom layer, the one that's closest to the tape, I will put extensions that are like 2 to 3 millimeters shorter. That way the tip of their fan is covering the area that needs to be darker, and it'll create that darkness for you. On this one, you can see that there's like a little flick on the side of this extension. If I didn't already dip the glue, I would be able to remove that one piece of hair. But since I already put the glue, I'm just gonna let that lash go. And we're gonna get one that's snatched. Now, when you're first starting to learn how to do extensions, you're gonna wanna put your extension 2 millimeters from the root of the lash. 2 millimeters from the eyelid. That ensures that you are not sticking the lash to the eyelid. But as you gain experience, the standard is to have it like 1 millimeter away from the eyelid. And then pros can put like a 0.5 millimeter away from the eyelid. But as a pro, you definitely want to give yourself room for error as you learn, and that's you'll be able to see a little bit more about how your placement is when you give yourself that 2 millimeters of space. And once I place the lash, I like to hold the isolation open to give the glue a few seconds to dry. So I believe I have a 1 to 2 second glue right now. I range between how many seconds I use for my glue. The longer drying time your glue is, the more time you have to adjust any error. So as a beginner, you're definitely going to want to start with a 2 to 3 second glue. That means that once you dip the lash extension into the glue, as long as you immediately place the lash, you have 2 to 3 seconds to adjust the extension to make sure that it's straight. So you start off with 2 to 3 seconds, but once you are getting good at your lashes and placing them straight, you don't want 2 to 3 second glue because you want to move along with your set. You want to complete the set a little bit faster, because 2 to 3 seconds on every single lash, when a client has like 150 lashes per eye, so that's 300 lashes, and spending 2 to 3 seconds on every single one, or even 4 seconds, makes all the difference. So once you become experienced, if you start out at 2 to 3, bump down to 1 to 2. 1 to 2 second glue. And then from there, you can go to like 1 second glue. That means that once you place the lash, you have 1 second before it's cured. Now, there's a difference between it being cured and it being dry. So it could still be a little bit wet, but the curing means that it's set in place and it's not gonna move. So you have 1 second for that. So let's say you take too long, like the lash that you just saw me place, not this one, the one before it, I kind of let it air dry for a couple seconds and tried to place it, and then it didn't stay. Even though it was still wet, it had already cured and it wasn't moldable anymore, and it wasn't gonna move, aka it wasn't gonna stick to the natural lash. Sometimes it'll work for you, but most times it doesn't. So I always give it a shot. So if you have 1 second glue, then that means that you're pretty good with your placement. You don't have to worry about wiggling it, adjusting it. When you're brand new, you're gonna have to wiggle and adjust it, and that's just a fact until you get better. And then there's even 0.5 second drying glue. And that means that glue dries in half of a second. And the pros to that is if you're already good with your placement, you already know what you're doing. You put that lash down, boom, it's already cured. You can move on. And that's one of the ways that you're gonna shorten your time for completing a set. But one thing about all glues is that you also have to check for the humidity. So currently my lash glue performs best in the humidity that's max, I believe 60%. And now that it's turning into summertime, it's a range. I believe it's like 30 to 60%. I am closer to that 60% humidity. And the reason why I know is because I keep a hygrometer here. So this is the temperature, 71 degrees, but this humidity reading is very important for your glue. So I'm at 52%. Now, what does that mean for my lash glue that has a max best performance of 60%? That means that there is a little bit of extra water or moisture in the air. And now my 1 to 2 second glue is actually going to take 3 to 4 seconds to cure. Now there's a couple ways to combat that. If you have high humidity in the summer, which sometimes I do, I'll have like 70% humidity. You can purchase a dehumidifier, and that helps. You'll be able to read on your hygrometer that the humidity is lower, and then your glue will perform fine. And AC helps also. AC will help you drop the humidity by a little bit. It doesn't do too much, but it will drop it a little bit, and it takes some time if it's like a whole room AC. But for now, I've just been noticing this week with the higher humidity that it just takes longer for my glue to cure. So I will hold the isolation after I place the lash for a few extra seconds. When it comes to the glue, I have always used a glue ring. I love it because the glue ring is the closest you can get to where it needs to be. So once I dip it, I wanted to reduce the amount of time that the lash is swinging in the air with a wet glue. And the glue ring is the way to do it. Some people like to use a stone or a little pod on the side. But for me, once you dip that, now that's even further, and every second counts, and in some cases every millisecond counts. So I like to keep the glue dot as close as I can to the lash, and that just works best for me. But as a lash artist, you just find what works best for you. Research different options, practice, try them. I did try having glue on the side, and I just didn't like it. But I'm gonna tell you that having this glue ring by your face for so many hours a day, you definitely need protection on your face. Definitely use a mask, and even like a regular mask isn't good enough, because there are fumes that you cannot smell that can still affect you. So even before it was a requirement to wear masks anywhere, I was wearing masks, and in the research that I did, they said an N95 mask was the best. And that's gonna protect your nose, your lungs, from any fumes entering the system and affecting you long term, because you know, with anything, any chemical you're working with, there's a possibility that you can be affected. There's a possibility of gaining an allergy, or if you have asthma like myself, getting an asthma flare up. So you protect yourself that way. Another thing I noticed I had to protect myself with was my eyes. And that's from two different things. That's from the bright light and from the glue fumes. I started to notice a change in my vision and my eyes, and it's literally from the fume and the bright light for hours and hours. I was working like 10 hours a day. 8 to 10 hours every single day can definitely take a toll. So I've adjusted by using glasses to block the fumes from directly going into my eyes. Sometimes they still might, but it reduces it significantly. And I used to use my lash light at the brightest setting, and now I don't. I'm using it a little bit brighter right now, but for the most part I have it a little bit less bright to protect my eyes. All right, so we have been using 10 millimeters length so far, but now we reach the next length, so we're gonna switch into 11. You got a little bit of tear in the eye. I think your eyes have been opening up a little bit, Mika. It's not from the tape, right? It's just from you relaxing. If the tape is pulling your eye up too high, let me know. So we're using lint-free wipes to just wipe off some of the watery eye in the corner. I want to keep the client comfortable. So far, the lashes are looking fabulous. We have our rear view mirror to give it a check. Looks great. So right now we're hopping into 11 millimeter to match the previous lashes that were there and the increase in length. Get my breath, okay? I'm over here talking over here. I'm like, wait a minute. And here, since the natural lashes are getting longer, it's a little bit easier to isolate. Therefore, we're able to move a little bit faster. When the lashes are really short, it just takes a little bit long. Not a little bit long. It takes a little bit longer to isolate and make sure that you have the natural lash exposed from tip to root. When they're longer, it's easier to get in there, and you don't have to be as close to the root because it's exposed a little bit better. Thank you to everybody who's here watching the live. If you just hopped in, you missed a little bit of my rambling, but if you have any questions, let me know. Right now we're just performing a fill. It's about a 2.5 week fill. We're doing a cat eye. And cat eye means that the length, you can do a cat eye with any style. This is a volume. So a cat eye length starts shorter at the inner corner, longer on the ends. This gives like an eyeliner effect. And it works really well for clients who want to have like a little bit of a sleeker look to their eyes. But if you have a client that already has like really almond shaped eyes or downturn eyes, I don't recommend using a cat eye for them, because it'll just close off the ends of their eyes. But if their eyes are a little bit more round or upturned, a cat eye can be a very great suggestion for the client. This fan had a little flick, so I'm gonna leave that aside. Sometimes I'll use them. If the client has a really thick eyelashes, the flick doesn't really stick out from the side of the natural lash. But average lashes, a little flick on the side will have it stick out a little bit, which can cause the extension to fall out prematurely. So I usually toss those aside. So that extension stuck to its neighbor. So I removed it, but we still have the natural lashes bare. But I realized that the neighbor lash needs to be removed. So we'll do that. Sorry. sometimes when you place a lash, you wanna check and make sure that it was placed properly. Oh, verify. Oh well, I have to verify that I'm still here. Oh, come on. All right, we're back. I don't know if you were still able to see the screen. Okay. So sometimes once you place an extension, you want to make sure that it's securely placed, and you can wiggle it to make sure. So I'm looking for the extension that I want to use. Okay, and the natural lash that I want to use. So here it is. I'll place the extension on, give it a couple seconds, and then I'll wiggle to make sure that it's cured. It could still be wet, but at least it's cured. It's not going anywhere. Since we're getting into the end of the lash, we're gonna move up to 12 millimeters length, and that's gonna finish off our cat eye. Hey y'all, thanks for being in here. If you're enjoying the live, just tap on the screen. Ooh. You're starting to be able to see that cat eye effect. So, ooh, sorry, I bumped you. The shorter to the longer. How you doing, amiga? I got like, maybe like 10 lashes left. Not even. There's a couple more before I end the floor. So we finished placing the lashes on this eye. Now I'm going to use our rear view mirror. Do a check on the front. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you can. So you do a check on the front. Sorry. Slam the mirror down on your face. And just make sure, check to see that it's even and that it's giving you that cat eye look. And since today we're working one eye at a time, we're done with this eye. We're gonna fan, and then we're gonna do like a potty break, and we're gonna work on the other eye. But I think I might not do the second eye on here. So we're just gonna fan, remove the tape, and we'll go from there. So I like to put my fan like in the pillow. I don't know if you can see it. Oh yeah, you can. So I put the fan in the pillow. That way nobody needs to hold it, and the client just gets to turn her head and dry the lashes. So I'll remove the tape that was lifting up the eyelid first. Always like press onto the client's skin so that you're not ripping or like pulling too hard on their skin, and always try to avoid removing any of their brow hair. After I do that, I go in and make sure that none of the lashes are sticking to the tape before I remove the tape. It looks like one in the front is sticking to the tape, so I gently lift it up from the bottom before I remove the tape. That way you're not pulling on the client's natural lashes or their extension. And I always do one at a time. And it's pretty quick and painless. You don't want to like snatch the tape up. You want to be as gentle as possible. And then the gel pad will come off. And we have a beautiful cat eye on our left eye. So I just want to thank you guys for being here on this live. We're going to wrap it up for now, but we will definitely be here soon again for our next live. Make sure you're following me to be able to get updates on the next time we're live. And hope you have a great rest of your Saturday. I'm just catching up on the comments. I didn't see any comments earlier. You got any stickies, Mika? You got any stickies?
You already put primer. I can open?
You can open. I didn't put the primer on. I'm gonna do it at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, hold on. Let me just...